So what I'd like to do now is, Jean and Wasim, if you could come on down. I'll just get your presentation set up. So we're gaining time, so it's not going to be late for lunch, because that's a horrible thing to be. Wasim, how are you? Just do that. So yeah, just start talking while I get this set up.
Okay, so nice to talk to you, everyone. We are going to present. I'm Jean Deruelle from Telestax. We are going to present today with Wasim from Convergence, which is a Telestax partner. Basically, piggybacking previous presentation on trying to drive and create an ecosystem of proven services and take them to market. I think you need to go back a little bit. I would like to thank Istanbul for the Turkish hospitality and great pastries. And so this is a joint presentation between Convergence and Telestax. So I'll let Wasim start now.
Okay, assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. My name is Wasim. I represent a company called Convergence, which is nano SI. Khalid had mentioned that there were some mini SIs. For us, a mini SI is a Goliath. Okay? So we're a very, very, very small company, yet we're doing some interesting stuff. It's not often that you will find somebody in a shalwar kameez giving a technical presentation, and hopefully it's not the last. Okay? We need to embrace our cultures and be very proud of our roots. Okay, as John mentioned, this was going to be initially a tri-party presentation, which was an operator, one of the tier 1 operators, who would define the requirements, a systems integrator like us, who would then work with the developers and service providers to roll out the service. Unfortunately, Athar could not make it here, so it's just John and I. We will cover three, and since we're short in time, we're going to cover three cases that we've deployed using Telestax software. One is a traditional model, and this is an SMSE for one of the larger operators in Pakistan, roughly about 32 million subscribers. And again, this is built on top of Mobisense, what Telestax provide. And again, cloud software, traditional SS7s, SIGTRAN connectivity. John, if you could take me to that slide. Yeah, so we're doing, and this SMSE came about by the operator's requirement. They had this massive, expensive SMSE from Logica, and just the license costs on that were so significant that when they were running bulk campaigns, they would overload the SMSE. So they approached us that could you develop an alternate SMSE and offload the bulk, offload the non-critical part of it onto this. We then worked with Telestax to roll it out. It does roughly 40 to 50 million SMSs a day. It runs on 4 virtual cloud machines. It can scale up as and when their marketing requirements change. Okay? Connectivity, again, is to multiple STPs. It's over SIGTRAN. It's basic map. Okay? This is the traditional SMSE that we've deployed using Telestax. The other case we have is for one of our neighbor countries in Afghanistan. This is Afghan Wireless, probably the 3rd largest operator there. Their requirement was for a push USSD service, and this was for voting as well as for customer, post-customer call center quality assurance, and how was your service, was it handled, was it not handled, etc. And again, now this is developed using Restcomm from Telestax, and the operator was able to roll out a test service using push-click using a GUI interface very quickly. The third POC, and this even John was not aware of, I made the slide and uploaded it, and Alan couldn't get it in time, is for a WiMAX operator who's working in roughly 5-6 countries in the region. And they're part of a GSM operator subgroup. They have roughly 800 call center agents that are handling calls for the customers. And this is a hodgepodge mix of Cisco and Avaya, lots of asterisk in places, some free switch, Vichy dial, outbound services. and they want to now replace it. And they want to go on to a newer model. And we're discussing with Telestax to take it on a WbRTC model using simplified tablets as interfaces. So I don't know whether any of you have been to Pakistan, but we've got major heat issues, we've got major power issues. So all of this will help simplify that. And maybe now Jean could take over and explain how Telestax provides some of these tools that we use.
Okay, thank you. So we'd like to thank you, Wasim, for the presentation. And this is in conjunction from what Mac from Huawei presented in a typical local go-to-market strategy, where you can use local SIs that know very well the operator, that know very well the country, and that can really take the services to market, as they really know the market very well. So there are also an inflection point in terms of uFone rolled out 3G networks in May, and they will start to feel the heat in terms of over-the-top, WhatsApp, Viber, etc. And how do we address that for operators? So we really want to help into providing services. Again, on previous presentations, services are the key, and how can we roll out services fast to market and create an ecosystem of partners that can build those services. This is a diagram from Alan, where traditionally we leverage only hardcore telecom developers, which is really small subset of worldwide developers. And the goal with APIs and with ecosystem in general is to tap into millions of developers that don't know necessarily the telecom protocols, the hardcore infrastructure, but that can really drive innovation if you give them the tool to develop new services. So we built this solution called Restcomm. It's basically a Twilio in a box that you can install on-premise. So we take away all the complexity of the hardcore protocols. For example, the PSTN, SS7 stuff. We expose simple APIs. We also try to provide open source mobile SDKs for Android and iOS, so that it's not only targeted to web developers, but the world is turning mobile. So we really want to provide mobile native application developers with the same way of integrating services and communication features in their mobile application fast and easy. Of course, there is WbRTC as well, where we are doing a lot of things, as Wasim explained. We figured that API are good, but we wanted to provide a next step into being able to build services without having any coding background, not being a developer. Even creating a voicemail shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. And so we built a visual service designer that allow you to drag and drop verbs or concepts so that you can build services very fast and test your services even faster. So really, the goal is to make the developers or even non-developers capable of building new services and drive innovation. The next step on now developers have built services, how we can take that to market. So we are an open source company, so everything you see in this slide is where we come from. So for more than the past 10 years, we built all the traditional telecom infrastructure in open source. So all of those components that you really know well, from SS7 to WbRTC, are all open source components. And we have also mobile SDKs that are not shown in the picture now, that are open source as well. And basically, coming from a telecom background, we said, okay, we want to provide all those features through Restcomm so that developers and non-developers can build services very fast. It's not limited, as Axiata was saying, it's not limited to application and services from application to person. The Internet of Things and the rise of machine is coming up. And this is a presentation that was done by Henning Schulzrin, which is the CTO of the FCC, was the CTO of the FCC. That is showcasing how MobiSense, which is our open source platform, can be used in the Internet of Things as well. So like I was saying, moving up the value chain, now you build services, you have all this ecosystem of partners. What we want to do is do like Apple and Android did for the mobile phone, remember those feature phone where you have like 10 apps on the feature phone, and then Apple came and you have those millions of services coming to market. We want to do the same thing. Basically partners with ecosystems, with our open source community. Since we expose Twilio APIs with the Twilio community as well, and we can even expose other type of APIs. So basically build an entire ecosystem with local system integrators as well that can push innovation. Anyone can actually drive innovation and take meaningful services to market. What we want to do is create a Telecom App Store, which is actually in line with what Dialog has been pushing to market with ID Mart, which is basically developers in the ecosystem would push their services onto the App Store, and then the service provider can pick and choose from those services and drive them to market. And basically there would be ratings on the apps so that they know which application are revenue generating and works well in different type of market. So this is uncharted territory. So this is something we are doing proof of concept and trying to take to market. It's not something that's complete, it's a moving target. It's still a soft launch. So we are doing POCs with a number of partners and service provider. So we are onboarding partners now. This is one of the company that's taking their application to market on the Restcomm application store. So we are going to go with a proof of concept to validate the App Store concept from a vendor perspective, from a developer perspective, so partner perspective, as well as service provider perspective, because we'll try to roll out their service into a service provider in the US in 2015. We are trying to onboard more partner and also more service providers that are willing to play the game, that are willing to try to push services and do proof of concept of validating new business model. The business model behind the Restcomm application store, which is just an example of business model, would be to push most of the revenue to the developers, so that by making the developers and the partners rich, we are making them great case studies so that other developers see the real value into building the services and partnering with telcos to bring the services to market. So like Wasim was telling me offline, he was saying, traditionally the 70% is for the operator. And Apple and Android shown that 70% for the developer is a model that works well and that can drive revenue and innovation in the market. I try to keep it short. I hope we're on time. And thank you very much.
Okay, they said this was going to be a tough group. It's tough when presenters ask questions, okay? So I have a question for Jean. Jean, today we've seen Exiata show a case on using WSO2, and there's another, Tropo was showing an app. Yours is another option. When we walk out from here, is there going to be convergence between various offerings from various providers? Or are we going to, as an operator, are we going to be able to unify on one API to rule them all?
It's a tough question. GSMA with one API tried to kind of unify or standardize the API before it was the right time. I think the goal is try to push API to market, see what works, and do the standardization work afterwards. So really try to drive value first to subscriber before standardization. And I think consolidation may come later in the game, but the real driver right now is to actually push services to market and see what's working and what's not working, in my opinion.
Cool. Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Just hang on to Teams just so we can record it.
Yeah, hi. Could you give some examples of just what are these services, just to make it real? Because I mean, I've heard an awful lot this afternoon or this morning about platforms, but I haven't got a view of what it looks like in the hands of the end user. What is it that the user, am going to be using rather than something else?
Okay, so the partner we are onboarding, Dynamis, by example, as an example of services, is basically taking incoming calls and doing some big data analysis and taking the number, checking all the online services as well as the enterprise system to actually collect information on the user that's calling. So they can see that basically if the user previously called and is already in touch by looking at Salesforce with a dedicated salesperson, they will try to reach directly the salesperson. And by looking at the calendar of the salesperson, they might also be able to divert the call directly to a secretary or to some other person. So try to provide some customized, personalized communications. And when the salesperson actually gets the call on his cell phone, he gets a nice overview of who is calling and all the data, previous interaction that's pulled from Salesforce or from other sources on where the situation is with this person. This is one for the enterprise market. We are still pushing more of the services for the enterprise and for verticals. So the App Store is meant to have multiple categories for different verticals, be it consumer side, healthcare, government, etc. So.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, I look at it as very similar to what Senate Mobile presented this morning with their templates. It's just creating very simple frameworks upon which you can create a range of services. But that was great again. Thank you so much, Wasim and Jean.